Yes, sir. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for all your many blessings. We thank you for this council meeting that we've had today and all the meetings that we've had today, and that we bless that your will be done for all of our citizens. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Shelley, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mike Shinbaugh.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Joe Berg.
Honey.
Bill Incoats. Sean Crittenden. Joe Deere. Mike Dobbins.
Here.
Kanan Duncan. Rex Jordan.
Here.
Darrell Legg.
Here.
Wes Snowfire.
Amen.
Laura Katzkowski.
Here.
Mary Baker Shaw.
Ani.
Leo Smith.
Here.
Denise Taylor.
Here.
Victoria Westwood.
Ani.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. You've had a chance to look over the minutes. Could I have an approval? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, reports. Is Marcia here? Marcia's here. Human Services. Marcia Lamb. How are you?
I'm fine. I just have a couple of things to report on our LIHEAP clients. We have processed all of the elderly and disabled. And to date, we have 1,691 on those. And so now we're processing the younger ones. LIHEAP is really for just the elderly and disabled, and if we have money left, then we can serve others. That's the way it's always been. This year, we were able to increase our payment, and to give you an example, a household that has 1 to 3 people, the payment was $266, and it went up to $325. So, yeah, it's about a $60 difference.
That's good news.
Big money.
So we're glad about that, and that's all I have to report on. Anything new?
Is there any questions for Marcia?
Well,
Councilman?
mine's not exactly a question, it's probably more of a comment. Your division is now carrying Indian Child Welfare, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the reason, which is a great explanation, is because of all the programs that are available through Marcia's direction. It's more accessible, and I applaud that. What I do want to share with council is, for those of you who are unaware, at our at-large event, January Hoskin, the wife of our chief, has made it a platform this year to represent Indian Child Welfare in finding foster homes. And I really applaud this. Every time she has spoken, we have picked up at least one foster home, and that's across the country because there's such a need. And I just wanted to pass that on to council as an announcement.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody else?
Yeah.
You?
When do you think those light heap will start going out? Check.
As far as I know, they're already going.
All of them gone?
I'm sorry?
Are all of them sent out?
Well, we process them as they come in, so, and we take our applications before we get our funding. So we have that out of the way. We always have those that don't return the documents in a timely manner. So it's taken this long for the funding to come in, and for some of those are probably still pending. That's why I said it was to date. There may be some still out there.
Wes?
Have we, on our ICW stance, we used to have FOSTA adopt as being one of the criteria that a family can sign up for. I guess have we separated that now? I mean, I'm assuming we have, because I've talked to several of our families. We've separated to where you either are a foster family or an adopted family, correct? Mm-hmm. So if a person comes in and they're a foster family and they are fostering a child and then want to move for an adoption, is there a process that we have set up in place for that?
Once the child has gone through all the processes that they need to, then that child would come up for adoption, and it would move over to, if that family chose to. Some of them don't choose to, but if they choose to, they could
So, and then if you sign up that you want to adopt a child, and because in our situation, whenever we as a family signed up, we were a foster adoption situation. So most of our kids that come up through a process to be adopted are generally come up through foster program first, and then move for adoption. So those families that are wanting to adopt, they're not accepting any children that are going to be available for adoption that are just in a foster state currently, correct?
No, we're accepting all children. We just did away with that process because we felt like it was too confusing to the parents.
Right. Yeah, I know. There's been several families that have dealt, and speaking on that, because it is confusing, it's a lot of heartbreak for some of these families who have been fostering. What sort of program do we have, or can we develop a program for counseling and for resources for those foster families, because they deal with a lot. I mean, they're seeing children coming in that are coming from, you know, bad backgrounds and home lives, and they're dealing with a lot with these children. You know, I don't know if anyone's had to deal with that, and hopefully not, but you know, whenever you're dealing with a child that's going through withdrawal symptoms, it's a baby. It's a lot for these foster parents, our foster families that are stepping up to the plate to doing these things. They need as much help as possible going through the emotional roller coaster that they're going to be with. And I think sometimes what's happened is, in dealing with a lot of the foster families that I've spoken with, is they feel as though they don't have a resource to fall back on. They're just kind of a used situation, and they're a great resource for the child, for us as a tribe, and a great resource for the family that child ultimately is going to go to.
We're looking at different ways we can emphasize things. That's certainly on the table. It's a slow process to shift things around, how people think, and I'm talking staff, some of them. So we're doing that, and I'll make sure that is on the board on some of these changes we're doing, that we can get something like that implemented if at all possible.
Okay.
I appreciate that feedback.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Marcia. Thanks a lot, Jerry.
Anyone else?
Wes, were you talking about not only counseling for the students, but also to the parents?
To the
going
parents.
through that process, because, you know, when I was in education, we dealt with some of that. Foster parents come in, you get to keep a child, because they become part of your family, then
Right.
you end up losing them sometimes. So they need help at
They do,
times.
absolutely.
They need some guidance.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For me.
Yes, sir.
I'll work with Marcia and the behavioral health team as well, with looking at some possible counseling and guidance for those parents that are going through those situations, in dealing with those situations where the child's removed from their home after getting attached to them. So, the struggles that they deal with on a daily basis. So, we'll see if we can between behavioral health and human services.
Appreciate it.
And I think it is difficult when a child is removed, and, you know, terminating a parent's rights to allow them to be adopted is not the easiest thing to do either. And, you know, you're talking about both sides, the mother and the father, and you're always looking for relatives first.
Yes.
And I know that dealing with that's a difficult thing for adoptive parents, because sometimes it takes a while before the mother can get back where she can take care of that child, but then she hadn't been terminated, and then she still has rights to that kid, and it's 6 months later and there is a bond formed, and that is a difficult thing. And the nation and the state, it's very difficult.
You're actually talking to the choir.
Yeah, I know that.
My kids adopted a child, and no matter how many times you hear this child may leave, they get attached every day just a little bit more. And it is hard. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that if they've had this child for a while. We were blessed and got to keep it, but it still had to go through that process. They had to have family members, and by their choice, they chose not to. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. That's one
tough.
of the reasons we stopped that. So
Yeah, because just one more comment. I know some of the families who have left our foster program because that was just too much for them. They felt as though they didn't have anybody there advocating for them, and their help in the process, because we're all trying to create a cohesive environment for that child to reunify with a family or a family sibling. And it can be a really emotional roller coaster, and they can feel neglected. And I think that those are our prized people to help out with our foster children situation. So, all right, appreciate it.
Marcia, we appreciate you. That's kind of a tough deal, but it's tough to deal with. But I know you guys are doing your best, and you'll continue to do so. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Michael Lynn, Community Services, Roads and Transportation. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, council. Mr. Chair, I think you've got a copy of our report in your packet. I'd be glad to answer any questions. I've got a couple of items I want to address from previous January council or committee meeting, but if there are any questions on our report, I'd be glad to take those.
Is there any questions for Michael? Councilman Buzzer?
Michael, I sent you a request to put another road back on. Can you address that, or do we need to do it some other way?
Their roads are added to our construction priority list, or our TIP, is what we call it, through a process of evaluation. As you probably remember, there's a points assigned to different criteria of each project or each road, and those higher points rise to the top. I have no idea where that rates now. It was on the system. It was on the system at one time.
Yeah.
We held a public meeting. For those of you that don't know, we held a public meeting out on a project in Delaware County several years back. It's been maybe 8 or 10 years ago. I don't recall. And the community just opposed it, out and out opposed it. So we chose to take it off of the system, and it's just never hadn't been thought about since. But I believe that you've had some discussion with the county commissioner.
Yeah, the commissioner wants to put it back on, so I told him we'd have to go through the process. So.
Yes. Okay. But we'll take a look at it and see where it ranks among everything else when we go to add projects to our TIP. Right now, there's not a need to add any projects to the TIP because everything we've got on the TIP is funded. Our TIP has to remain what we call fiscally constrained. We can't have more projects than we have money, and we can't have more money than we have projects. So, but when it comes time to add it, we'll go through the evaluation process, and I can let you know something at that point.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anyone else? What else you have for us?
Just to address a few items that were mentioned last month in the January meeting. There was Councilor Buzzard brought up a mini excavator that was purchased by our Water and Sanitation Department. And I think last month it was mentioned that there was one Terrell bidder that bid, and that's not accurate. There was 5 bidders total. None of them were Terrell certified. I believe the bidder that you were referring to is out of Grapevine, Texas.
Yeah.
And they were the lowest bid, but the issue with that was the fact that they're not an authorized John Deere dealer. It looked to be like I'm speculating here, okay, but it looked to be like a third party or a reseller type of situation. But they're definitely not an authorized John Deere dealer. We checked on that. We checked on it before we made the award. There's an issue with getting parts, especially from a piece of machinery that wasn't purchased from an authorized dealer. The bid was awarded to Kirby Smith Machinery out of Tulsa. There were several reasons why it was awarded to Kirby Smith. Out of all 5 bidders, by the way, only one of them bid the John Deere, and the bid notice went out. It said John Deere or equivalent, and it gave all of the specs for the John Deere. Only one of the bidders bid the John Deere, and that was the one out of Grapevine, Texas. But the bid went to Kirby Smith, and the reason is because the machine that they spec'd had a lot more digging power and a lot more lifting power than any of the other machines. Even the John Deere that was spec'd, it was greater than that as far as specs go. Had a lower operating weight, which means it could potentially tear up the yards that they're in less, and the towing weight was drastically lower than the John Deere. So, and then parts and service are available locally. So that was the reason on that, and I just want to make mention of that.
What I will do is then I will contact him and have him contact you, or procurement here, Because what he tells me, that they are a Terrell certified vendor. He tells me they are a preferred vendor for the Choctaw Nation. The Choctaws went through all the certification, and he says he has the franchise on John Deere. And I said, well, I don't know. I'll bring it up and let you address it. So what I will do is contact him and have either contact you or procurement, maybe get this thing worked out, because I know he is Choctaw. The guy is Choctaw. So. Anyway,
I spoke with Terrell directly, and they are not they're not an approved Terrell. They've never been on the Terrell list. So.
And I think he told me he was, so that's between
Maybe
them.
certified with another tribe, I don't know. But
No, he did Cherokee,
Okay,
so I will
okay.
have
Yeah.
him to contact
Have him-
Terrell and you.
have him
And you
on
guys
site.
work it out, so.
Okay. The other question that came up last month, just to address it, was a project spotlight that Andy had put in his report. It was on Washington County project, Road 3000 in Oglesby, Oklahoma. Question, I believe, was brought up by Councilor Buzzard on what the nation funded $144,000 towards the project, but it was a $340,000 project, and Councilor was asking what
Yeah.
where the remaining dollars came from. And those came from what they call a CIRB, it's County Improvement for Roads and Bridges. It's a state fund that the county commissioners have access to, and that's we spoke to Mike Bouvier, the county commissioner, and he stated that's where those come from. And then lastly, Mr. Chairs, Councilor Buzzard and Speaker Byrd had asked for a Terrell list or of a report showing Terrell vendors who had been certified at least 1 year and who had not received work from the tribe. That was a little more tough. That was tougher to get. So what we did, we gave the report to the speaker, kind of just on the other side of it. We gave who work that water and sanitation both and transportation had worked with that had received work. So we didn't give him who hadn't received work. We gave him who had received work. And that's something that I want to bring light to, because it's something I'm proud of, and especially after looking at the numbers. We looked at FY 2019, last fiscal year, and we looked at let me back up and say, with the help of the Terrell Department as well as Cherokee Nation Accounting Department, we worked together to come up with this information. But the expenditures for 2019 that was analyzed was $2,702,000, so a little over $2.7 million in total expenditures. And of those $2.7 million, $2,070,000, or nearly $2.1 million of that, went to Terrell certified vendors, Terrell certified vendors. That's a percentage of about 76.6%, roughly 77%. So 77% of the dollars that we're spending in both the Water and Sanitation Department and Transportation are going to Terrell vendors. So kind of eye-opening for me. I'm glad the question was brought up and asked, but I feel like we're doing a really good job. We would certainly like to see that number higher, and we strive to do that every day. There's certain things that are purchased that are purchased or contract services that are needed. They're just simply not a Terrell contractor out there. So anyhow, I wanted to make mention that we did get the speaker that report.
Yes. And that report, thank you for that report. One thing I'd like to mention is we asked about a Terrell certified business people that did not receive a bid. Well, in that report, it also came out that some of them didn't submit an application for a bid.
That's correct.
So there's some good information there, and Shelley has it, and if the council member, if you want a copy, just get with Shelley there. She's got the report now.
Okay.
But thank you.
Very good.
Any other questions for Michael? Wes?
Just a quick question. I met with one of my road guys, and we were talking about he found some funding he was going to use for putting in a tornado siren, possibly in one of our rural areas. We kind of discussed it. I didn't know, is that something that we're able to use some of our service money for roads for that, or not? I just didn't know. I thought I'd ask you, figured you'd be the guy to ask.
Sure. I would advise against that.
Okay.
The funding that you have available to you, it needs to be spent on public roadways.
Roads, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe special project.
Maybe special projects, okay. All right.
Dr. Dobbins?
Michael, our roads money, is that strictly for county roads, not in like a city jurisdiction?
It
Gibson or Muskogee or?
is not restricted to just county. No, it could be spent in other areas as well. Just any public roadway. Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Councilman Bozier?
Michael, on your reports, I noticed we did get some cost on projects, but I pushed on your report also on road that you know what our cost is going to be is include those. And the reason I say that, I just think it would be benefit to all of us tribal council members to know how much money we're putting out in these counties because the stuff that's going on with the governor right now. And if we're talking to people and they say, well, how much do you spend on this road? Then, we can say, well, it's $7 million. So if you could, just put it on there, the cost of the road.
Okay.
I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, it's public knowledge when you give your bid out and who awards the bid. And I think you tell us in here what it's costing too. So
We do.
I think it'd be a good reminder to me anyway, and to the other council members to know what it's costing to do these roads. So appreciate it if you could do that.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
That's a good point. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to shift gears to, road issues. Do we have any comments on, or have any road issues that you want to address to Michael? All right, go ahead, Sean.
Michael and Andy, we talked before about bail meeting. I call it the super highway because it's going to be a good one when it goes. But when I first got on, we had that good meeting with the community, and we talked about having another one, like an update.
I think Andy is in the process of working those details out with the engineer.
Yeah, our engineers need to be a little bit further on in the design part before we have this meeting to make sure, because I hate to have a meeting and then we're not far enough in design and have to go back and then some things have changed. So we need to get to that percentage where we feel comfortable that there's not going to be a huge change, so we can have that meeting with people and let them know where we're going, alignment, what's going to be up.
If you don't mind, just email me
Sure.
kind of the absolute latest. I know there was a problem with the landowners and this and that, but absolute latest, because they don't let me forget about this. Of course, I don't want to, but
I'll keep you up to date,
Thank
keep you informed, and we'll make them happy.
thank you.
Anybody else? Michael, thank you.
Yes.
Good report.
Thank you all.
All right, for housing, Gary Cooper is not here. He's at NCAI. And he doesn't have a representative that's going to be here. He said if you have any problems, just give him a call. He's still answering calls. His staff is still answering calls, and he may be back for ENF. He said if there's any problems that anybody needs. So I didn't see Anna. Shay's here. All right. Come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry Anna's unavailable today, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the Commerce Department.
You have any questions for Shay?
No questions
All
at all.
right. Any
Okay.
comments?
We started volunteer income tax assistance preparation last week. We served, this is an approximation, around 160 people just in the first week. February is the busiest month, and if you have anybody who hasn't already scheduled an appointment, we have some walk-in clinics, or they can call to schedule appointments, but we're about a month out at this point.
Awesome.
And all they need when they walk in is?
It's a lengthy list. I wish I could say like 2 things, but they need a social security card, they need picture ID, they need a copy of tax returns from the previous year.
And they need something to prove tribal identity.
No. The Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program is a partnership with the IRS, so it's available to anybody.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. That's what I was hoping. That's what I was hoping you would say. I just thought that was the truth.
Yes, that's accurate.
Good report, Shay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, old business, none pending, new business. Councilwoman Petskowski, would you take that, please?
I'm sorry, where are we at here?
On the
Right here.
resolution?
Right here.
There's the book.
A resolution authorizing the Bureau of Indian Affairs to revise and update the Cherokee Nation's inventory of tribal transportation facilities, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Second. We have a,
And it needs to go to
Motion.
council tonight.
okay. A motion and a second. It needs to go to council tonight. All in favor? Opposed? Is there any announcements? Need one more motion.
I got an announcement.
All right, what's your announcement, you?
The last Thursday in this month, I'm having a community meeting at Black Gum Community Building. come down, downtown Blackgun,
Downtown Blackville.
right by the 10-killer dam.
By the Civic Center.
Chief Staff, you have something?
One thing I don't think was mentioned between Health Committee or Resources, there was a date that was just set today, which is March the 3rd, which will be the groundbreaking ceremony for the Stillwell Clinic, WP Main Killer Clinic in Stillwell. That'll be at 1:30 on March the 3rd. We'll be sending out invitation and calendar invites, but we just got that squared away today. Okay.
Thanks, sir. We'll call this meeting adjourned.